Hello everyone and welcome back to Farmer Joe Homesteading. Today, to finish off our winter series, we are going to be covering goat care during the winter months. Goats hate wet, so snow is not their friend. You can see they got the teeniest little trail, like they do everything they can to not get their feet wet. They really don't enjoy the snow. So goat care, our most important tip for you is feed. They need good hay. Our girls are currently, we just switched to giving them some grass hay and a little bit of the good alfalfa hay. If you can't get good alfalfa hay, then you can just feed cubes. When we didn't have good alfalfa hay, we were just feeding them alfalfa cubes, and we just kept alfalfa cubes available to the girls whenever they wanted. These girls, because they are in milk, are getting alfalfa pellet in with their grain, so they are getting alfalfa pellet, beet pulp, and goat tex during their milking time. So these girls are getting a pretty good, well-rounded diet. So they do, goats make a huge mess with hay, and I'll show you that. This is all the mess that they have made. This little hay manger is usually like almost as tall as Mama. And yeah, she can just walk right into it because its legs are completely buried in hay. So there's like a good foot to 18 inches of hay built up here from goat waste. They eat everything and leave the stems. So we've got all these stems everywhere because rotten. So yeah, we end up with a lot of goat waste. Last year we put all of that goat waste into our garden, so if you haven't seen that video, make sure you check it up out there. We did put all of the waste that we had in here into the garden as our base for our no-till garden, and that worked amazing. We had awesome vegetables. So yeah, we always use the waste from the goats, and a couple times a year we have to come out here with the pitchfork and mountain it all up, because otherwise they start to get high enough to be able to just climb right out of this wire fence. So that's the tip I have on feed, because they will waste a lot of feed. Other than feed, goats also need lots of fresh water. So we have their water source way over there behind my well house so that I can actually get water. So there's a water tub there buried in the snow with a water heater in it. So everything for the goats is strategically placed so that I have access to the hose to fill that water tub, and also so that they have to walk. Walking is extremely good for animals. I talked about this lots last winter when we had all the pregnant goats. Walking is really, really good for their bodies. It's good for their systems. It's good for their health. So we always make sure that everything is spaced out so that they have to move and get to their feed and water every day, instead of staying just in the little goat shack, because they would stay in the goat shack all day if I let them. Now, that being said, when it is horribly cold, we do feed and water them in the goat shack. So we had issues with, in like the beginning of November, high winds. Goats, like I said, don't love snow, but they also really don't want to be out when it's like that. And goats do have hair, so they do get a pretty good winter coat and they get pretty fluffy, but that wind is just bitter. So we actually will feed them in the goat shack and bring them buckets of water when it gets really bitter cold. The only disadvantage to that is the poop. So they poop and pee and they just stand in here all day. So So this is hay that I had been bringing them in the beginning of November. And you can see this is all they have left. They just kind of made it into a bedding area, which is not terrible. And then they also have this little goat hut, and I fill it right full of straw. This is what it looks like from the outside. We actually got this from my in-laws who had it for their sheep out in the pastures. So it's just this big, fully boxed in, insulated space that has just that one little hole to get access into. So it's totally windproof, totally weatherproof, and it's insulated so it keeps them warm. So the warmth they get in there is from their body heat. So they bed down in the straw inside there, and it actually gets extremely warm when all 4 goats are sleeping in there. Last year, we had all of our goat kids born in March, and they all kidded in this area, and it was actually really, really good. We decided not to have babies in March because it was this kind of weather, like it's -10, lots of snow on the ground. That's usually what it is in the beginning of March. So we decided to wait off, so the girls will actually be kidding in April, and Big Mama will kid in June. So we will have more summer babies, which is great because we only have this little space for now. We do have plans of expanding and building more things, but for now, this space works awesome for our dairy goats. So before we built the big shack, all we had was this little building here. So we built the shack around it to help with wind. So we get a lot of storms from the west, which is that direction, blows this direction. But we also get some storms from the east blowing this way, which would blow right into the hole. So we built this as like a kind of protection from there, and then they don't have to stay in the little one all the time. They can, in bad weather, they have all of this extra space that they can stand in out of the wind and snow and rain and things. So we like having both spaces, and then obviously in the big space we built has my milk stanchion and my milk area so that I can milk in here. And I think that is everything for goat winter care. Breeding season for goats is in the winter, so that's why we're missing 2. Luna and Star are still at the neighbors with the Billy, so they are currently not here right now. During breeding season, that's another reason why feed is really important. If they have really high protein, you do run the risk of getting bigger kids, so having a good grass hay mixed protein ratio is pretty good for them. There is a lot of things online you can find on like protein and ratios and things. I usually just go off of body condition. I just keep an eye on their body condition and see what they look like, and then adjust accordingly. I find that doing this mix here with the grass hay with just a little bit of the alfalfa hay seems to work pretty good for our girls, and they seem to stay in pretty good shape. So in the summertime and the spring when we are milking, they have a lot more protein in their diet because they're lactating, and they're and then over the summer they're still lactating. So we try to give them a little bit more during those months, but then they also have access to grass and things, so it's not too bad. So wintertime we kind of cut back on the protein. Just we want them to stay warm, obviously, but we also want their babies not to get too big. So the grass hay is good for them. It keeps their stomachs moving, keeps them going, and so they'll do just fine like that. So I think that is everything. If there is something that I missed on winter goat care that you are curious on, then please just comment below and I will let you know. But I think that is kind of the basics. They just need the food, the water, the shelter, and that is pretty much it. We do still have to do some hoof care over the winter. We try to avoid it and do as much as we can in the fall, but it usually inevitably we have to do it again at some point in the winter. So they are due for a trim here pretty soon. So we'll probably have to still do that, but that is all for the goats. I hope you guys learned something new today, and we'll see you guys next time.